This year, following hearings, submissions by a panel of experts and public engagements, the South African Human Rights Commission released the 2021 July Unrest report. The events started on the 9th of July in mainly Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. They emanated from political resistance that turned violent and catastrophic, leaving over 300 people dead and devastation resulting in astronomical economic loss. In the community of Phoenix, the situation quickly turned violent, fueled by racial clashes. 36 people died in that area. Each year, the community and families commemorate the victims through memorials and community drives. Marvin Govender is from the Phoenix Residents Association and joins us now for this discussion. We're also joined by cultural and religious expert, Professor Masechaba. Good morning, Marvin, and thank you so much for your time.
Good morning, Mr. Khumalo. Good morning to your viewers.
First and foremost, this time last year, it was reported that the families of the 36 victims had feel that the government had not done anything to help them get justice and other longer-term aid. A year later, is there any progress? Is the position of the families any different?
Masechaba, in terms of the deaths of the the guys that passed away, the families, we have not seen any intervention from government. And remember, as Phoenix Residents Association, we have been always calling for some sort of reparation in terms of the manner and the way people were killed. And this is on both spectrums of the race group. There were I think there were 3 Indian families that lost loved ones, and there were 33 families within the Phoenix area that lost, African families that lost loved ones. So we were asking for actually reparations from government in terms of the people's livelihoods. Lots of them lost breadwinners, etc. They should be compensated to some sort of a degree, because people are living in poverty. I know the one matter of Mr. July Khumalo, and I think that was heart-wrenching. But however, we've gone as the civic body one step ahead. And I don't know if people are afraid with regard to his friend that was fired because he made a statement because he was very, very emotional. He's an ex-employee of Toyota. He was actually dismissed. So we've given Mr. Govender full support in terms of even his case that came before I think it was the Equality Court in Isipingo, where he made some remarks, and he even gave a public apology, but Toyota still dismissed him. So the thing is, we're giving full support, and the whole idea is to, mend and, build Indo-African relations.
Some of the reasons that have been cited in the past for the lack of support from government have been a change in leadership. Has there been any improvement in their communication? Are there any new reasons that have come up in the last year?
Nothing whatsoever. Remember, the DA during the riots, after the riots had gone on and put up all these racist posters, these guys have not been prosecuted. In fact, we give these guys so much of power that I think one of the guys is on, Dean McPherson is actually on the cabinet and also in the government of national unity. Now, this is an insult to both the Indian and the African families that have lost their lives. You cannot parachute a person that was key in terms of saying, DA called you heroes and ANC called you cowards or ANC called you racist. Now, for us in this democracy to stomach a person like this guy, Dean McPherson, being parachuted into a position of governance and he's going to be a legislator, how do you have a racist person like Dean McPherson now overseeing the departments where you have majority? We live in a majority black country. So the issue is, it is really disappointing to us. I mean, even President Cyril Ramaphosa should have never appointed this guy. They should have looked at his history. It's really, we get emotional when we see things like this. And it's not easy as residents to stomach things like this.
Let's talk about the residents, the families of the victims and their healing process. How is that going?
Well, I interact with a few, Indian, and as I said, I spoke about the July Khumalo incident where his friend was involved. But people are really, they are on a downward trajectory in terms of the emotional state. People have lost their father, in terms of this violence, and people are not in the same space as one would say.
Thank you very much, Marvin, for your time. We really appreciate it. Marvin Govender is from the Phoenix Residents Association, and we have cultural and religious expert Professor Masechaba on the line. Professor, thank you so much for your time. As we have heard from Marvin, the situation seems bleak year after year. We are 3 years into the anniversary, the third anniversary of what's been dubbed the Phoenix Massacre, with 36 victims, and their families are still finding it difficult to heal. What can be said about this healing process in light of this tragedy that has occurred?
Well, good morning, Masechaba. The problem was the manner of it, how it happened. I know also that there's a lot of criticism against the SAPS, who seemed to be at a loss about what was happening. And some police stations in Phoenix were simply not accepting people who were coming to complain that they were being attacked. And these attacks, of course, were very random. And there was a taking that if you are black and you are seen walking in Phoenix, you have come in to loot, and therefore you must be shot and killed. It was random, unthought of, and at the end of the day, the families that lost people, some of them were going to work, on their way to work. It's going to take time, a long time, before they can heal, because you can imagine the manner in which it was so sudden, that whole thing of the July uprisings. I think very few people would have anticipated that over a period of 3 to 4 days, so much devastation would happen.
Professor?
However, hello?
How do we move on 3 years later, and taking into consideration that the Phoenix Massacre has caused serious tension between black people and Indian people? How do we prevent a tragedy of this magnitude in the future?
Well, interfaith groups, religious groups, as well as political leaders must come together and maybe do something like every day of reconciliation between the Indians and Africans, especially in Durban. It was not new. It has happened also in 1985 and in 1949. There's something that is not right in terms of interracial relations between the Indians and the Africans in Durban. So, and you can see that it may happen again if it's not addressed swiftly, or it's not turned into a race issue. Government departments like sports, arts, and culture, other departments in government should be able to come forward and eThekwini Metro with a reconciliation program that will help those communities to be in speaking terms and to understand that it was not everybody, it was those few individuals from the killer side who decided to take things into their own hands.
Thank you very much, Professor. That was our cultural and religious expert, Professor Masechaba, just reflecting there on not only the process of healing on the 3rd year anniversary of the devastating Phoenix Massacre, but also seeing how we can foster a culture of social cohesion in South Africa. Rachel?